Good evening, viewers. I think it'll be evening. I think we're posting this on the evening, unless you're watching it in the morning or the afternoon. Anyway, welcome to Eric Lyon's YouTube channel. Today we have a very exciting video. It could be a disaster, which would be a real disaster because we're going to be losing a lot of money's worth of a prime fillet of beef. We have a whole fillet there, trimmed the tails off. We'll have a video coming next week on how we've got to this stage, so make sure you watch that next week on how to prepare a whole fillet from the butcher's to your table. The pan isn't really very big enough, but I want to cook the whole thing. So we're going to give it a go because I need to sear the fillet. Really simple. We're just going to be using a Parma ham, a shop bought pate, and then we're going to be sweating down some really finely diced chestnut mushrooms with a bit of thyme. Obviously sear that down, cover it with Parma ham pate mushrooms. Bob's your uncle, in the oven, cook it to perfectly medium rare. Let's see what will happen. Before we get into it, please like, subscribe and comment. If any other butchers, chefs, customers are watching, please let me know what you think. I'm a bit of a rookie when it comes to videoing. Hopefully I'm a bit better than a rookie when it comes to cooking and butchering. But let me know what you think. And yeah, let's go. Oh, I've forgotten one thing. Rather important ingredient that I've forgotten there. This is again from Eric Lyon's. We make all our own pies, so our puff pastry is made fresh. So again, if you're not from around here, pop to your local bakers. They should be making fresh puff pastry. If you want to make puff pastry yourself, set aside an hour and a half just to make it alone, because it does take quite a while because you need to rest it, blah de blah blah de blah. So I would recommend probably going to shop by that. Again, support local, go to your butcher's or bakery, hopefully they've got some for you. So we need to finely dice the mushrooms. Again, I'm going to get a bit of a bigger knife, because we're going to be sweating them down with a bit of thyme and butter. But again, the whole aim of this video and the Beef Wellington is to make it as simple as possible, so you at home who've never got any cooking experience understands a bit more about the fillet, which will be coming in another video, and a bit about how to just simply make it so you can impress your friends, because they probably never thought you'd be able to make one before. Again, if you're wondering if I've washed the mushrooms or not, no I haven't. At Birmingham Food College, when I was there for 3 years, basically the water is like a sponge. It will absorb all the water. Water's like a sponge? The mushroom's like a sponge. It will absorb all the water and you'll have no flavour. So again, you've got a bit of soil on there, pick it off, throw it off. Again, it's not going to kill you, it's not going to harm you. Don't bother, don't wash them. Right, just one thing I've forgotten. I like to lightly oil and season my steak before we start cooking. Again, only very lightly, doesn't need much. But it's just better than oiling and seasoning the pan. Right, direct onto your fillet. And again, fillet is a cut that doesn't have hardly any fat in it. So you need to add a fat to it to help it cook, or you will burn it. Lots of salt and pepper. It's always good to season early on before cooking. And again, we're just going to be searing this. Nice and even. Bam. That's basically our prep is done. There's not much to do apart from dice your mushrooms and grab your fillet from your best local butchers in Knowle and Solihull. It's Eric Lyon's. Over to the stove. Just melt your butter down. Coat your pan, throw your mushrooms in, get it all in there, sprinkle of thyme. So anyway, leave them aside, put them nice and hot, keep jiggling them around. Now we're going to sear the meat. This is a major issue. We're going to be struggling here, because again, the fillet is humongous and our pan isn't that big. So let's just try it and see what happens. I think if I curl it round, It will just go. Yes, we're good, we're good. Right, start that sealing. Again, we've got a bit of oil on, so it's not urgent to get the butter in straight away. We will be throwing some butter in a minute once I've started searing it. And then that will just, we're going to throw the butter over the top of the fillet. Again, because there's no fat in the fillet, it's quite important to do that. Again, if you're wondering why we sear the fillet, again, it's to lock the moisture in. If we put the fillet on top of the puff pastry beforehand, we're going to get a lot of the juices, the meat juices and the raw meat on the puff pastry, and it's going to make the puff pastry soggy. So this will lock in the moisture and add a nice flavour, nutty flavour to it. And now we're going to be turning over our fillet. Again, we need a nice big knob of butter. I'm going to use my favourite butter, Cotswold butter. Shout out to them guys. Let that rest there, and we're going to try and turn him over. Slowly but surely. You want the pan on as hot as possible. Unfortunately, I've only got an electric stove. If you've got a gas one, whack it right up. We want that sort of colour all round the fillet. Okay, so I've seared my fillet. It did work very well actually. We managed to curl it around the pan. Bang on. Got some nice beef juices in there. I'm going to whack them in with the mushrooms because they'll absorb them and I don't want to waste them. So slide them in with your mushrooms. And one thing I forgot to do, we've got the scales here. I was going to weigh the fillet. Obviously we've probably lost a smidge of weight now after we've cooked it. But I was just quite curious to see how big this fillet was. Again, it's obviously much bigger than my scale. So, and I don't have any cling film. It's a bit of a disaster, but might not weigh it specifically, but. And it says 1.7 basically, that is. And again, that's probably rough, so. Yeah, I reckon it's about 1.75 kg, which is a yeah, big old fillet basically. Okay, so our fillet needs resting for about 5 to 10 minutes just to hold its moisture back in because yeah, just let it cool down. We're going to be putting the mushrooms, pate, and then rolling it in our Parma ham. Again, as I said, we don't have any cling film, which usually you put cling film down, roll it over. So I'm going to do it without. So let's layer our Parma ham onto our pretend cling film. Try and keep it in nice whole pieces. Right, our fillet's had a good resting now. So we're going to be putting our pate on the outside. Again, you can put Dijon mustard, English mustard. It's whatever you prefer your fillet to kind of have the additional flavour too. I like putting a pate on, nice richness to it. And then obviously it's a rich dish. You'll have nice vegetables to go alongside it, honey glazed carrots, nice sweet roast potatoes or something like that, and a nice red wine jus over the top. But again, I'm just going to be cooking this. I'll leave the side dishes to yourselves. Again, I'm just going to use the back of my spoon to wipe over the pate. And then once this pate is evenly spread, it'll help the mushrooms to stick. Once the mushrooms are on, then we'll be putting it and rolling the Parma ham over the top. Then the beef fillet is ready, and then we need to wrap it up in our puff pastry. Right, we've spread that nice and evenly. Time for our mushrooms. Again, really nice buttery mushrooms. I'm just going to be throwing them over the top and then hooking them onto the pate. The pate will almost act as a glue. I think the best way to do this without cling film may be to put the Parma ham on top. So let's do each 2 slices as they come. Beautiful, perfect size. Okay, so we're nearly there. Final stages. Crack an egg. Give that a little whisk. We're going to need that as our glue, basically, to glue the Wellington together. Get a little brush. Again, simple as. You can season this as well. I do quite like to give it a little season. Perfect. Glue's ready. Now we've got to slide our Wellington onto our puff pastry and trim it all up. Do your thing. So let's pick him up and think about this. Basically, you want him upside down, so I want it to be Parma ham side down, because then when we wrap it and roll him over, he'll be stood up. So let's pick him up, probably with the assistance of our tongs. And turn him over onto the middle of our puff pastry. Little joke for you, as I'm sure you'll be missing my cringy jokes. I probably won't be able to tell them properly again, and I don't even know if it makes sense, but most people order beef Wellington. I prefer to order my beef Rarrington. I don't even know if it's a joke. I don't know. Take what you want of that. It's horrendous, absolutely horrendous. Anyway, let's get on to something a bit better. Let's get on to our beef Wellington. So, we basically need to measure how much puff pastry we need. So fold him over. That's absolutely perfect. I basically wanted that line straight down the middle of a beef Wellington. When I roll him over as so, I know that that's going to come to about there. So I need a bit extra to obviously glue it to. So I'm going to be cutting it roughly down there. So again, you can leave that on. Basically, I'm going to be cutting it down here. We can have a little play with that afterwards. I'll show you something to do with the spare puff pastry. Again, some people can make jam tarts and stuff with them. It's quite good fun with your kids or whatever. We're going to be cutting a few different shapes on top of our beef Wellington to make it look even better. So now you need to glue the pastry basically. Straight down the line. Again, this is made to be as simple as possible. Hopefully, it should be easy for people to follow. People can have different ingredients, different methods. Please comment. If you've got a better way of doing it, I'd love to know. This is just how I would do it. Some people might say, oh, it's not covered all the way around on the fillet. Again, it doesn't need to be. It's got all the flavour, and when we cut into it, it'll be just as good as everyone else's. Actually better. I don't like to be on par with everyone else. We're going to be better. So, we've glued our edge. Again, you can sort of double glue if you really want, just to make sure. Don't need much. We will need that egg wash to glaze the whole thing afterwards. So, as I said, keep it nice and tight to the fillet, really tight the puff pastry, and fold him over. Again, keep your hands clean, because remember, you're going to be using that on the puff pastry. If you've got juices or stuff on your hands, you're going to ruin the puff pastry on the outside. There we are, that's lovely and tight on the fillet, and then obviously you've got the ends, which I'll show you what to do with in a minute. Perfect. Basically, push your puff pastry down into the next bit, and here, push it right up, and then you know where the end is. And then we're going to cut probably 2 thumb widths wide. Get rid of that. 1, 2. don't need them. And then what I'm gonna do, I just like to curl these up the side. It's an easy way of getting it nice and neat. And just egg wash, use your glue. It's really simple. The glue's there to hold it up. You'll need to glue the inside as well, which I've forgotten, just in here to keep that together. And then just tuck that into the puff. You can trim it right up, but I just like to do this on a bit of extra puff pastry. An actual whole layer like that with the glue. Same as this end. Right, how are we going to pick this? Well, he should hold if I use two hands correctly here. There we are, nice and firm. It fits perfectly snug into that. Again, if you've got a bigger pan, please use one because we need the air to get around it to cook it evenly. Unfortunately, mine's just at the edges, but that's perfect. There we have it. A few different options now for decoration. You can score it nicely. I like to create a few little pretty patterns with the rest of the puff pastry we've got. Usually at work, I've got some different cutters. I've only got a knife here, so I might do a few little love hearts for my staff, I suppose, which we're going to be taking this to and giving them a nice little treat. If you like to score it, I think I'm going to give it a very nice light scoring as well, because it always looks good. Don't cut through the pastry though. Literally, this is just a very, very light scoring. Right, I'm going to create a love heart. Before you do that, make sure you glaze the whole beef Wellington. It will just create a nice golden brown colour. And there we have it. I reckon it's going to take about 180 in the other oven for about an hour. What I'm going to do after that hour, because it's such a big piece, I'm going to use our temperature probe, and in the center of your fillet, you need it at about 55 degrees. That creates it perfectly medium rare. A bit less if you want it a bit rarer, a bit more if you want it more well done. But yeah, I reckon we can leave that for an hour, and then after that hour, if it's still a bit under, add another 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and so on. So yeah, slide them in the oven, and we'll see you when it's ready. Okay, we are out the oven. It only took 50 minutes at 180 degrees. I gave it a little probe 10 minutes before the hour, basically, that I claimed. And we're basically there. So I just probe the center, and I'm going to smidge over at about 56 degrees-ish. It's notching on 60. But again, for a beef Wellington, I'm more than happy with that, because it is going to be almost a bit of a false reading. I do want it a smidge over, because we don't want it raw, because once you cut into that, game over. We can't put it back in the oven. So I reckon that's medium rare. It's just notched on the 60 degrees in the center. I probably haven't got right into the center as well. You're going to need to leave that to rest for, I know, it's a bigger than this, so probably about 15 to 20 minutes. If you're doing one half the size, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm going to set this aside on a chopping board, leave them for 15 to 20 minutes, and we're going to do a nice slow-mo cut down the middle. Fingers crossed, we've nailed it. Okay, so 15 minutes has passed. I'm very nervous. This is the most exciting thing you do as a chef, when you cut into a piece of beef, because we need it to be perfectly pink. So I'm on edge, but here goes nothing. Let's cut in and see what we've got. I'm hoping for perfect medium rare. Again, I'm going to cut at an angle. I'd usually cut straight if you're serving for someone, but for the sake of photos and everything, let's cut it at an angle. It's cut absolutely like, it's like butter. Right, here goes nothing. Let's peel him back. Oh my word. Absolutely bang on. Nailed it. So there you have it. 50 minutes in the oven, 180 degrees for a monster fillet of beef. Probably about 5-10 minutes less if you're cooking half the size or something. But there we are. A fillet, you can't get any bigger than that unless you use 2 or 3 fillets and make a real monster. A whole fillet beef Wellington, cooked to perfection. Now we've got to take it to the staff at Eric Lyons who are going to be buzzing. And yeah, please like, subscribe and comment if you think this was a good video. And if you're going to be giving this a go, please let me know if you give it a go. And yeah, pop into Eric Lyons and we've got nearly all the ingredients apart from the pate. We make our own puff pastry and we've got the best beef fillet you can buy. So yeah, see you soon.